மறக்காம சர்ப்ரைஸ் பண்ணுங்க. Thank you.
So welcome to this first chapter and this first part on building up a tactical foundation. And what we're going to do for these first couple of chapters is focus on a specific tactical theme for each one, tactics that are often coming up in endgame studies, and really highlight and break down the mechanics of how each tactical theme works. What I'll do is I'll first show a couple of instructive examples on each particular motif, and then leave you to solve the rest of the puzzles in the chapter on your own to really boost your pattern recognition and improve your overall solving capabilities. And in this first chapter, we're going to be talking about attractions, which are really one of the most common themes that we'll find in endgame studies. Now, attraction tactics are often referred to as decoys, but I like the name attraction better because it actually suggests what the tactic is all about. It's all about attracting an enemy piece to a specific square, usually through sacrifice or through some kind of forcing move. But this is all about luring an enemy piece to a specific square so that you can then unleash further tactics against that piece. So for example, we might want to lure an enemy queen onto a square, or then we can win the queen with some kind of pin, fork, or skewer. Or we might want to lure the enemy king to a specific square where we can then deliver checkmate to that king. So attraction tactics can be really powerful because they can leave the enemy pieces with no safe squares to go to, as we'll see in our first example. So what I've done for each of these chapters is I've started it off with a pretty famous study kind of highlighting each individual theme. And this first one here is a puzzle composed by the great French composer Henri Reinck. I'm sure I'm terribly mispronouncing his name, but this is a really, really elegant puzzle, really highlighting the power of attractions. So white starts off here with a bishop and a rook against the queen. We're material down, and unless we come up with an immediate way to win material here, white is just going to be worse. The queen is going to outplay the rook and the bishop. So it's really important for white to look for some kind of forcing shot here and really try to win black's queen. So the solution starts off with the move rook to a8, a really, really nice and powerful move, hitting black's queen on g8. And as we can see, this rook on a8 is immune because if black plays queen takes a8, white has the move bishop f3, skewering the king and the queen and winning material. But let's go back because, of course, black does not have to take the rook, and it seems like black's queen has a lot of squares to go to, but it really isn't that simple. If black plays queen e6, then white has rook a6 check, winning the queen. If queen to d5, then bishop f3 wins the queen this way. And if black plays queen to c4, white has rook c8 check, winning the queen here as well. Now, black could play the move queen to h7 here, and this will be very similar to the main line, and we'll see what happens on this move. But first, let's take a look at the variation if black plays queen to a2. Seems like the queen is safe here, at least for now, but here white continues with another fantastic move, rook takes a4. Taking the pawn, once again hitting the queen and stopping any kind of queen a1 check, and once again the rook on a4 is defended indirectly. If black takes this one, then white gets bishop e8 check, winning the queen on a4 with a completely winning endgame in the end. Now again, after rook takes a4, black's queen does not have to take, but black is again running out of squares. Queen d5 and queen e6 once again lose, bishop f3 and rook a6. So black's queen once again has to go back all the way with queen to g8. So how does white continue from here? Well, now the rook again returns to a8, and now that white grabbed this pawn on a4, black no longer has the a2 square to jump to. Once again, the rook is immune, and black is finally forced into the corner with queen h7. So how does white win from here? Well, now it's the bishop that delivers the final blow. Now white wins with the move bishop to g6. Another really, really fantastic shot, hitting the queen on h7, and now the queen is trapped. Black is forced to play queen takes g6, and after rook a6 check, white skewers the king and queen and ends up with a winning endgame at the end. So really cool study highlighting a number of nice attraction tactics there. But actually the rest of the puzzles in this chapter will be much, much easier in order to really build up those patterns and those building blocks and to give us a solid tactical foundation moving forward. So with that, let's take a look at the next example. So this next example here is actually the first puzzle you'll see in this chapter. It's white to play and win. And since this one is quite a bit easier, I'd invite you to pause the video, think for yourself for a few minutes, and try to solve the puzzle on your own before returning to the video and we can go through the solution. So if you haven't paused your video yet, make sure to do so. Well, here white wins with the move bishop to d4. Pinning black's queen and king on the diagonal, of course attacking the queen on f6, and really not leaving black with a lot of options. Black has to play queen takes d4, taking the bishop, and now after knight f5 check, white wins the game with a simple fork, winning the queen on d4. So not the most complicated tactic, just a two-mover that starts with first putting the bishop on pre on this d4 square, but noticing that this d4 square is actually mined. If the black queen steps on the square, white has this winning fork and winning the game. And a lot of the puzzles in this chapter are going to ask you to find some idea like this, luring the piece to a specific square so you can then find some kind of winning fork, pin, or skewer to actually win that piece. So with that, let's take a look at another example. This next problem is actually number 16 in the chapter and highlights a different version of the same attraction tactic. Once again, this is white to play and win. Once again, I'd like to invite you to pause the video and try to solve it on your own before reviewing the solution. Okay, so if you want more time, definitely pause that video. Well, here white can actually deliver a forced checkmate after the move bishop a3 check. Luring black's king further into our own territory, the king has no choice but to play king takes a3, and now after knight c2, we simply have mate on the board. The king is under attack and the b4 escape square is covered by white's knight. So once again, not the most challenging tactic to solve, just bishop check followed by knight c2 mate. But being able to find this kind of tactic quickly is a matter of practice and spending lots of time solving these kinds of puzzles to really strengthen that pattern recognition so that you're able to see these ideas very quickly and in multiple different variations. For some of the endgame studies you'll be asked to solve in the future, you might have to find several of these kinds of attraction tricks, but in different variations, and so I hope you're ready for the challenge. With that, I'm going to leave you to solve the rest of the puzzles in this chapter. I would encourage you to try to spend up to 5 minutes on each puzzle before reviewing the solution. And if you happen to get any puzzles wrong, then I'd really encourage you to review the solution carefully and slowly so that you get better at spotting this kind of pattern in the future. With that, I'll wish you the best of luck in solving the upcoming puzzles, and I'll see you in the next chapter. Take care.
மறக்காம சர்ப்ரைஸ் பண்ணுங்க. Thank you.